So it finishes 1-1 at London Stadium in what, to be honest with you, was an absolutely woeful game of football that perfectly characterised the positions that we are in the Premier League, I think, for both of us. I've got to say, most of the time I think we've been kind of carrying ourselves this season as though, we've probably been a little bit unfortunate, we're not playing very well, but we're a better team than that. We've got a good squad and maybe our position in the league wasn't really representative of sort of who we are as a team and how we've maybe played or our potential or something like that. But to be honest with you, today I saw nothing better than 17th. Quite possibly, I saw worse, actually, because we're talking about Southampton, who are very firmly rooted to the bottom of the table on what had 10 points. They've now got 11 points with the point that they've gained at the London Stadium, that they've taken from us, stolen from us at our ground, and now equaling the lowest performing team ever in the Premier League with Derby County. So, look, really, as I say, I think it's very fair to say it was an absolutely woeful game of football. I was there in the stadium, watched it, and I got to say, this was yesterday now. I'm recording this on the Easter Sunday. It took me a little while, to be honest with you, to actually make this video. And that's just because, frankly, I couldn't be bothered. It was just, it was such a game that I sort of didn't really want to talk about it with anybody. On the train home, there was a few people that I saw West Ham, and it was difficult to make conversation, to be honest with you. It was just, I didn't want to talk about it at all. I was in the opposite to Fullkrug. I wouldn't say I was angry. I was disappointed instead. And look, we had 12 shots, 4 of them on target, which was about the same, bar one, about the same as against Liverpool, which, to be honest with you, as you can probably imagine, is the problem in itself, right? Because that's against Liverpool, the top of the table. We're equaling the same amount against the bottom of the table. Well, that's not good enough. We need to be doing a lot more than that. 4 shots on target against the worst team in the league, possibly ever in the Premier League. So just let that one sink in for a moment. Yeah? So pretty much even on possession. I think it was 51-49, so 50-50 on new possession. You look at the lineups that came out, and I was fairly positive on my way to the stadium. Had a look on the West Ham Twitter account, and I saw the lineup. And I was a little bit gutted because Wan-Bissaka wasn't in the lineup. We'd seen on the press conference that he had some kind of a toe issue. Was doubtful whether or not he would make the game, and obviously he didn't. So we had Southampton on the right-hand side. Southampton today, I mean, look, he is a good player. I don't know that he's Premier League standard anymore. He's a good player, but he's definitely off the pace at the moment. But to be honest with you, why wouldn't he be? He's barely played all season, which is, obviously a cause for concern on his part. He's getting itchy feet, and I don't blame him. I mean, you want to play. He's one of the players that actually does want to play, and you could tell he was giving it. He was giving it his all. It just wasn't good enough. But yeah, otherwise it was it was a positive lineup, a fairly positive lineup out there. Fullkrug starting the game, which is nice to actually start out with our strongest 11. Emerson on the left. I thought, to be honest with you, if there was a game you were going to start Scarles, it was today. So I was a little bit surprised he didn't start, but I was quite pleased to see us being positive and going out there from the get-go. That was the idea, right? But it wasn't the reality. Just sat rooted to my seat for the majority of the game, to be honest with you. It started off fairly positively, coming straight down the left-hand side, crossed in Fullkrug, very close quarters, well saved by Ramsdale at his near post, to be honest with you. He probably should be protecting his near post and did so quite well, got down nice and quick. Fullkrug was unlucky not to score that one, to be honest with you. A bit of a striker's goal, had that have been successful. But as I say, well saved. The problem was, in this game, I felt that really wasn't enough people carrying the ball forward from the midfield, or from the defence, to be honest with you. I felt like there really wasn't any. There wasn't really any desire to get ourselves forward. Anyone sort of like taking the chance. And, I think the only people that were really doing that were Bowen and Kudus. Fullkrug, I think once or twice, perhaps, but he's not really kind of your ball carrying kind of guy. He sort of seems to, as it say, he needs to be, like I've said before, he needs to be in that kind of 6-yard sort of area, that width to sort of receive the ball, crosses, and be that target man to hold up and play everybody else off. And he does that job really, really well. That, didn't happen. So it was really frustrating just to sort of see them on the ball and everybody just sort of screaming at them, just get forward. And it just didn't happen. An incredibly, incredibly boring and frustrating game to watch. Southampton looked dangerous, which they shouldn't do. There was a couple of times they should have scored, to be honest with you. I mean, they could argue if they were on that side with us, in this kind of conversation with the Southampton fan, they could argue there could have been a couple of times we could have scored. But, Southampton very narrowly missing past the post, hit the bar. Really, it was a shaky game. Kilman should have got sent off, in my opinion. A really, really clumsy challenge to get the yellow. It was terrible. Something that I would have, I'd have expected from Mavropanos, a couple of times, to be honest with you. And that's the reason why Mavropanos gets quite a bit of stick. So to be honest with you, mate, that's channeling your inner Thomas Repka back in the day, mate. You really should, be a bit more careful than that. And as I say, you should have got sent off because there was a second yellow card offence there that you got let off with. So, we could have been down 10 men, 1-0 up at the time. But to be honest with you, as I say, I think it was kind of a bit of a foregone conclusion because Southampton were playing quite well and we were letting them. Southampton, frankly, deserved the point. As I say, you could have argued that they deserved to win. Paqueta had a really good game. I think today, in spite of everything else, Paqueta had a good game. Bowen played really well in the sense of he was in his actual position, which is nice. So he obviously just plays a lot better in that, knows it inside out. Just muscle memory, waiting for the balls in the right position, and he was a bit more forward thinking, thankfully, today. And it paid off with a goal. A very Bowen goal, frankly. There's, I think, was at half time, the guy sitting next to me, I think I was actually the only one who stayed in their seat for half time. Everybody else went down to get a beer. And I think it was probably about 70% of them were still downstairs when Bowen scored. So, they said to me, was it a good goal? And I said, well, yeah, look, actually, it was Kudus to Fullkrug. Fullkrug laid it off to Bowen, and then Bowen scored the goal that Bowen scores. Come straight in, cut in on the left, bend it round, far inside the far post. To be honest with you, I'm surprised that Southampton, well, I'm not surprised that Southampton, bottom of the league, didn't have our number on that one because everybody else seems to. Every time Bowen does it, everyone knows what he's going to do, which is come down, cut in, far post. But, that has sort of only really sort of been our only threat over the last few games. And that's half the problem, is if you've actually only got one threat and it's just pass it over to Bowen and then Bowen does that exact thing, well then that's it, we're toothless because everyone just sort of packs it in. Everyone just crowds Kudus because they know he's going to try and run past about 4 or 5 men, and eventually he'll lose the ball, and then we'll be under the cosh. So, that's pretty much been our season, which is why having someone like Fullkrug to get the ball into, or Antonio back when he wasn't injured, is just it gives you another way to unlock that defence, and we've just been woeful at it this season, just not been able to do it at all. So we end up being on the defensive, and certainly at the beginning of the season, that went how that went, and then so far we've been a bit more solid, but that's just because we've got so many people behind the ball that it's the other team's got to be even more creative, and it's just not been happening. And there's been a lot of criticism, I think, about the Premier League, generally speaking, this season, about being sideways and backwards. And, you know, frankly, as we know, we've been no different for the last few years. So, I think, you know, on that point, Somerville's really important to us again, just to have that sort of left-sided threat. We don't have that at the moment from Kudus. As I say, he's just sort of a bit clumsy, and at the minute, just keep running at people. It's just the obvious thing that he's going to do. Everyone knows that he's not going to pass it off or anything. He's just going to come straight at them. So we just crowd him and dispossess him that way, bully him off the ball. And, you know, we need someone like Somerville to, you know, quick feet around the box, maybe draw a foul, so then Ward-Prowse can try and get that level with Beckham's record or whatever, because whenever Ward-Prowse gets a free kick, it's 25 yards out, right? I mean, he's never going to score from there. So we need to be changing up the way that we're playing. We just don't have enough variety there, and I think Somerville coming back is going to be a real big lift. But look, that's just not happening at the moment. There's sort of a lot of mystery shrouded around that one. So, yeah, you believe what you want to believe on that one, but this one's. Hopefully, this one doesn't turn into a Maxwell Cornet kind of situation where we just don't get him back. We have to start shipping him off to smaller teams. So, fingers crossed for the lad. But yeah, I mean, look, we then obviously we scored that goal, and you know we had a period of dominance for about 20 minutes or so, and then for some reason, Potter made some incredibly negative substitutions, took all of our forward attacking threat off, and just brought on defensive midfielders, and brought on Ferguson, who again did absolutely nothing. Not that he had a lot of time to affect the game. I don't even know why he brought him on. He took Bowen off. Why? If anybody was given in the effort, it was Bowen. And it was Bowen, Paqueta, Ward-Prowse always puts in the effort. Fullkrug had come off by that point. Just incredibly negative. We knew what we were going to do with that. I mean, I watched Gio's video earlier on about this, and you know, he's dead right in the sense of that it sent a message. It sent a message that we're trying to protect that 1-0 lead. And why? Why are you protecting a 1-0 lead against the bottom, again, not to labour the point, guys, but bottom of the league, joint worst team the Premier League has ever seen at current points collection. You can't be sitting back and protecting a lead like that, and we got what we deserved. So, you know, after I'd seen those substitutions, I think it was something like the 86th minute. And if any of you have been to the London Stadium, which I'm sure you have, you'll know about the stop-go signs and all that kind of nonsense. And it's an absolute nightmare to get out of that place. So I thought, look, once Mavropanos came on and whatnot, I was like, there is no good that can come from this. We're not going 2-0 up. At the best, we're fighting to keep our 1-0 lead. I've seen the best of this game. So I got up on our left. And thank God I did. And I got to tell you, honestly, the walk back to the Stratford, to the station, Stratford, when the goal went in, silence. I think there was one person next to me, and he went, 1-0, like that. He didn't even like shout or nothing. I didn't hear anything from anybody walking. Just every now and then you'd hear 1-0, 1-0. Oh, did you hear that? 1-0. Really? Yeah. Of course. Because we knew it. Because it was a shit game. We played shit. And Fullkrug's interview said as such. And fair play to you, mate. Do you know what? You've been really, really injury prone. And people have been saying it, that you could be a bit of a cult hero at this club, mate. And I agree. And so I love Bowen. I really, really do. But I tell you what, I was ready to give Fullkrug the captain's armband after that interview. Because you need someone to get in there and tell it like it is. Now, Fullkrug's going to get in trouble for that. He's going to get in the real shit for that. But he shouldn't do. Because it's a fucking working class sport. And we're getting squeezed out of this game, and it's becoming more and more polished and corporate. And that was the first time we actually get someone to say what they thought. And all the power to him. You should be celebrated for it, and I'm celebrating you for it, mate. Well done. And that's what I want to hear more of it, mate. Get him in front of the camera. It's the first time I'd seen Bowen in front of the camera for a while. It's normally shirks his responsibility off to someone else. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not angry at Bowen. I'm not, because as I said, he still played a good game and he did the best that he could. But I tell you something, I'm losing faith in Potter. I am, because if you can't get this team united around, like Fullkrug was saying, you've got two halves of the team playing different tactics. If you can't unite that team, you're supposed to be a good man manager. I'm not seeing the evidence of it. I'm really concerned. I'm not ready to throw him out just yet. Don't get me wrong, guys. But I'm growing more and more concerned every week. And this was one of those games where we had to get a result out of this. We had to get 3 points. We're snatching defeat from the jaws of victory on this one. It's terrible. This was a layup, this one. Look, if Fullkrug is to be believed, then there is real turmoil at West Ham at the moment. And in the summer, we have got to root it out. Root and stem.